Because I think this is, one of the top three problems we have in dentistry is understanding how to get traffic to your site in the digital world and get butts in the chair to help your business grow. Um, Chad Erickson is here with MyAdvice, VP of MyAdvice, and we're going to talk to him. I don't usually like to talk before to my guests, but he does know we're going to ask some hard questions. So if you are available for some time, this is something you do not want to miss. But before I start, let's watch this video.
My name is Chad Erickson. I'm the Vice President of Strategy at Advice Media. For the past 20 plus years, I've had the privilege and opportunity of consulting thousands of practices on how to grow and market their practice online. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. What is the first experience that your prospective clients have when they go to your website? Does it convey confidence? Does it speak to them?
We help great professionals like you achieve that great online presence. Seeing the results that we're able to achieve to make your life easier and better and help you achieve your goals brings me great joy.
You have a tremendous opportunity in front of you.
We will help guide you. We'll talk about what you're doing well. We'll talk about your blind spots.
Chad, what's going on, buddy?
Man, I'm all pumped up after watching that intro.
Well, I tell you what, man, the
fun.
blind spot. We want to talk about the blind spot. Do we have blind spots as doctors when it comes to marketing and the digital game? Really a pleasure to have you here on your busy schedule. So thank you so much. Look, so let's learn a little bit about Chad. I want to get into the meat of the conversation, but let's just hear a little bit about your background, how you got into this mad world of marketing.
Sure. So, my goodness, I started helping practices with their marketing in '99, and so this is I'm coming up on 25 years of doing this, and got started. I was actually still in college, and living in Utah is, as I think most of the dentists or those listening know, is a pretty heavy tech world. You think about all the dental companies that come out of this area. Dentrix, Dental Intelligence, Weave, Solution Reach, just to name a few, right? And we were a marketing company in that same vein. And so I loved it. I got started early on, and honestly, I was passionate about helping these practices with their growth, realizing, you know what, they're not teaching these marketing principles in dental school and medical school. And if I can be that individual, that person that helps provide that information, that can be the one that holds their hand, becomes the guide, then it's great. So 25 years later, Dr. Safarian, I'm still loving it. I love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm so passionate about it, but my gosh, the amount of changes I've seen is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
You think about when I started, Google was in a garage 25 years ago. They didn't, they were trying to figure out who they were, and they're obviously a behemoth now. And I think we can talk about them, but So anyway, we've grown MyAdvice now to where we've got our headquarters here in Lehi, Utah. I live up in the mountains near Park City, Utah, but we've got an office in New York as well. So we've grown to a couple thousand clients. We've got over 125 employees. So our ability to really scale and help each practice meet their needs, depending on whatever their budget is what we can do. And so very, very proud of our team, the culture we've created, and love working with our clients.
No, that's awesome. And over the last year, just full transparency here. MyAdvice and Love Bites Dental have been working together as a sponsor of Love Bites Dental, and Chad's been very creative and innovative in some of the things that we're doing. In the conversations that we have, we talk quite a bit. But here's the thing that I get out and I talk to doctors. I was in Miami just a few days ago, and it's just amazing how much lack of training we have. So my question to you is, what is a basic foundational or fundamental flaw that you see in dentists today, and how they look and perceive digital marketing and marketing in general? And I want to take a deep dive into this. So
You
what are
bet.
your thoughts about that?
Um, that's a great question. So I'm gonna be really blunt here for a minute, because having done this and having worked with thousands and thousands of clients over the years, I think the biggest mistake that dentists, or any practice owner makes is their lack of engagement in their own practice marketing. When you think about one of the most important aspects of what you're doing is you actually have two things, right? It's customer or client. Um, um, you got to find them first, and then you got to keep them. And so if you can't find them, and you don't have a great methodology for that, and you're not keeping them, those two things are either going to make or break your practice. So, when I think about our own, practices we work with, and I'm astonished at how few of them will take 30 minutes a month to jump on a phone call with us to talk about one of the most important things of their practice, and that is where their new patients are going to come from. So that patient acquisition is massive, and a lot of them are just like, you thinking it's just going to happen, or they're turning it over to somebody in their practice, and thinking that's the solution, and that person's going to represent them as the owner, what they're looking for. And it's like, hey, is it your practice or not? Are you owning it, and are you part of the conversation? Because you have to be. So that's where I would start. Be involved, be part of that conversation. It's about scheduling priorities. Know you're busy, but this should be absolute one of the main drivers of your practice that is leading to new patient flow every single month. And it blows my mind that it wouldn't be a priority for every single person listening to say, yeah, I can make 30 or 60 minutes out of an entire month. That's all you're asking me to do, to be on a call? Yeah, I can do that. That has to be a priority. So it starts there, in my opinion. Um, be involved.
Well, I will tell you that one problem that we have in our profession as a fundamental flaw is that we don't understand what you just said, because we either are so clinically inclined, or even if I come to that call, I don't even know what you're talking about. And if I don't know what you're talking about, I can't make any decisions based on the language of what you use every day. Because it's easy to say, here's your cost per
Yeah.
lead, here's your
Yes.
cost per conversion, and here's, let's say, for example, dental implants, right? So your cost per lead is, let's say,
Yeah.
$100, right? And your cost per conversion, meaning somebody saying yes to you, is $1,000. So now you go
Right.
to the doctor and you say, okay, well, you want to grow your business, right? We're getting you the cost per lead at 100. You're spending $2,000. It's 20 leads a month. And out of those 20 leads, let's say 10 of them are coming in. Let's just throw, easy math. 10 of them are coming in. And if 10 are coming in and you're spending $2,000 a month, what is your cost per acquisition? And how do you reduce that cost per acquisition
Right.
or cost per conversion, or getting somebody to say yes to you? Okay, well, great. Now they understand the language of cost per lead, cost per acquisition. But now you tell them to take that from $1,000 to $500. They don't know what to do.
Right.
They don't know how to implement and incorporate a system, a process, and accountability. And the problem really starts with the doctor. And it's just lack of clarity. I just think, as easy it is for you to say, I don't know why these doctors are not engaging. I will tell you why they're not engaging is because they're just not interested. They're not interested because they don't value the importance of what you have to say in those 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because even if there was value in those 30 minutes, they wouldn't even understand what to do with that content that you just shared. So all they look for, and it's a very simple, hey, I just want the phone to ring. And, it's a very archaic thought
Sure.
process. So this is my challenge in saying, how do we get the doctor to not only engage with you because they have a plenty of time, they're just inefficient. One, and then what they can do with that information in order to change their business. It's not always external marketing, increasing external marketing dollars. I just explained a very simple uh, system or process of you reducing your cost per acquisition that could be exponentially valuable when it comes to
Right.
growth in your business. Those patients are already knocking at your door. But, you know, get them in front of it. And this is the discussion, is getting them on that call to work on their business. In fact, I challenge every doctor listening to this that you guys are all in the dink zone for the most part. If you're not macro producing high numbers, over $500 an hour in production, you're just dinking around. And as a business owner, the dinking around costs you the inability to sit with Chad for 30 minutes or Chad's team for 30 minutes just to go over some basics. So that's great, Chad. And we're going to get into some of the
You
language and
bet.
the bells and whistles. But let's talk about this a little bit, because for me, and we briefly touched on this yesterday when we talked. But for me, it's about conversion, right? And in order to get conversion,
100%.
you got to get traffic. In order to get traffic, you got to have a strategy and you have to have assets. So let's talk about how a doctor can get traffic, what you think today, because I'm not big on websites. There's a difference. I'm big on landing
Sure.
pages that can get you traffic to help you convert, but that's not necessarily what a website does all the time. You can have five landing pages and call it a website. So let's clarify some of the language. But tell me what a great strategy today is for a doctor to get a to get traffic, to have the opportunity to convert. Because let me say this before you start. Your role is to get the traffic. The doctor's internal team's role is to get the conversion. So what do you say,
You bet.
Chad, to that?
So you brought up a lot of different things. Let me peel back the onion on some of those. So first part you talked about is that the role of the marketing company, right, is to get the phone to ring. We're the top of the funnel, right? You think about a sales funnel. It's what we're doing. We need to get the phone to ring. We need emails to happen. We need to essentially deliver this prospective new customer or client or patient, whatever you want to call them, to the front door. The office, your office, you're listening today, has to then convert them. They've got to be able to respond quickly to the emails, to the phone calls, to the chat messages, to the social media inquiries, all of those to get them in the door. But let me maybe answer your question by giving a little bit of a background on Google. And I say Google because they're the behemoth, right? And it's important to understand who you're working with, because if we're going to be out marketing and we're trying to get these patients, where do we start? Google certainly is one of the biggest areas, and biggest groups that we should be looking at. Google, here's the numbers. In 2022, Google made $283 billion. And guess what? That revenue did not come from giving you a free Gmail account or letting you use their calendar or even a little bit of extra storage. This year, through the first 3 quarters of the year, $297 billion. They're on pace to have over a 10% increase this year over last year. That money comes from paid ads. So pay-per-click campaigns. And you alluded to this, what about websites? Are they working well? Are we going to get the conversions? They can. Are they the most effective? Maybe, maybe not. Let me give an example. I've got one of my clients in New York City that spends over $30,000 a month on paid ads. Some of you probably your jaw just hit the floor thinking $30,000 a month, and it's for one procedure. They focus on one thing and they focus on it really well. Now, they didn't get there overnight, but here's the important part, and I'm going to use some language that I hope will make sense. ROI, return on investment. they are spending $30 to $40,000 a month on paid ads, and in return, they can attribute $500,000 to that campaign almost every single month. They also know that if they spend more than that, it's a diminishing return. They get much below that, it also starts to go down. So they kind of have found that magic spot for them. Where I'm at in Salt Lake City, I couldn't spend $30,000 to $40,000 a month if I wanted to on that one procedure because I don't have enough eyeballs. So again, it's not about the amount of money spent, it's what does it get you back? And it gets them to the top of the search engines. Google has changed the way the algorithms work today. You know, if you go back 5 or 6 years ago, it was so simple. There was 10 results on the first page, and on the side there were 3 paid ad results. And then you had page 2, page 3, and all of them had 10 results. That was it. Well, I looked last week because I was giving a presentation, and it starts out at the very top: 3 paid ads, 3 map listings, 3 organic, which are kind of what you'd call maybe your top 3 today. Then it's your question and answer. Then it's more paid ads. Then it gets to more results. So if you aren't in the top 3 or in the map results, it's highly likely that you are buried way down that page. So how are you going to be most effective today? And there's some different ways around that because people can still find you based on a particular procedure they're searching for, and some other data. But as far as to answer your question, I'm a big fan of the landing pages. But the landing pages are going to become ineffective if you still have a lousy website, you have lousy reviews, you don't have a good social media presence, you don't have accurate listings online. They're not, it doesn't add up, right? So it's a wasted lead. If you're going to spend $5,000 this month on Google Ads and people come in, they're reading reviews about you and your reviews are terrible, there's a disconnect. You see what I'm saying? You're wasting leads. So you've got to have a foundation, and the foundation starts with you taking care of the people that are already coming into your practice, doing a good job with them, and being consistent in the way that you do your treatment, the way that you present online. Those things all matter.
Yeah, and there's so much you said there. I mean, it could be a one-day course on what you just talked about.
Yeah.
Really could be. But let me just touch on a couple of points that you brought up. Any lead that comes in, any notification, email, text, chat, whatever that is, your office internally has to get back to them within 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
Period. So you, doctor, you just found a solution to one of your problems. Is how do you reduce the time that the lead comes in and your outreach from your team? How quickly is that happening? I don't want to hear that my front desk is busy. I don't want to hear I got 3 people in the front and they're doing all a bunch of different things. I just don't want to hear any of that. Anything less than 5 and more than 5 minutes is an excuse. So that's number one. Number two, Chad said this, it's very important that you have reviews, because as much as people go and search and they get to your landing page, they're interested in your dental implants or in your All-on-X or in your cosmetics or aligners or whatever it is, but they will go and listen or read about what others are saying. So you need to make sure that there is a connection between your ads and your reviews online to be able to have balance, where people, not only are they seeing your quality work through assets that you've built, before and afters, video testimonials. Those are some content that they're seeing about the work that you've done. Building assets is important. Branding, all that stuff, we might touch on that a little bit. But also they want to hear what people's experiences are, because all those videos are not, all the people that have come through your practice are not doing video testimonials for you. So you got to stay at 4.5 plus. If you're not there, get there. It's just that simple. So if you're not there, here's the thing. Don't get upset at Google. We understand that there's some bad apples out there and they're going to say give you bad reviews. It happens. It's part of business.
Happens to everybody.
If you're at 3.5, look at your business culture. There's a problem. There's an inherent problem at 3.5 or lower. 3.5 or lower, you're got a business culture problem. You got a hiring problem. You got an HR problem. You got a customer service problem. So don't blame Yelp or Google. Blame yourself as the leader and make changes. Sit with your team and say, guys, look, we suck, man. We're at 3 stars on Google. And, I'm spending money on ads, but guess what? They go and see they got, as soon as they see the 3 stars, they're gone anyway. They don't even need to read anything. So, and those things take time. If you go from 3 stars to 4.5 stars, it might take 2 years. But you have to have that understanding that there's a strategy that has to be in play, because those costs per lead could go from 100 to 150 to 200 if you're 3 stars, or they could go from 100 to 90 to 60 if you're a 5 star. So you have to understand that component as well. Yeah, I appreciate with Google, because really today is all about ads, right?
It's becoming more and more that way. That's what they're pushing it towards. And so you've got to do a great job. You talked about the importance of that 5-minute window. So if we're going to reduce the cost per lead, that 5-minute window is critical. This is actually very timely. So my team yesterday afternoon sent out internally, and we're gonna be publishing this next week. And anybody that wants this, I'm happy to send it out. It's the 2024 Dental Patient Survey Report. We surveyed 450 different patients across the United States, different age demographics, on a ton of different questions. I'll just highlight a few today, but happy to provide this report to any of the listeners. But one of the questions we asked is, how many dental providers do you compare when searching for a new one? You want any guesses on how many they're looking at?
They're probably looking at over 5.
2 to 5. 70% of them are looking at 2 to 5 providers. So you think about that. If you have an ad, you spent money on an ad, and you don't respond to it, it's killing you. I'll give you it's actually kind of a tragic example of this. But we had a customer, a good friend of ours, a few years ago, wanted to run some paid ads. We do a lot of marketing in the medical dental space. This particular doctor is a plastic surgeon and wanted to focus on facelifts. He charges around $20,000 per facelift. And we ran a campaign for him that was around $3,000 a month. Over the course of 3 months, we generated close to 250, 275 leads. Now, I recognize with paid search that about half of those are not going to be real valid. So give it a haircut, right? Well, he came back to me at the end of 3 months because his staff told him, said, Doc, this isn't working. You shouldn't be spending money on this. You spent $9,000 on this campaign. Nothing's come of it. It's not really worth your time anymore. And he came to me and he was a little frustrated, a little upset. And I said, whoa, what are you talking about? I said, look at all of these leads. And I pulled out all these emails and I showed it to him. And it was like, hey, I know who you are. I've seen your work. You look phenomenal. I'd love to come in for a facelift. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I had over 100 emails identical to that and that lived in proximity. Then I also gave him phone calls. And when he listened to about 10 of the phone calls and the way his staff answered or didn't respond to phone call messages that came in, he was disgusted. He realized and went back and calculated that he lost out on probably $750 to $1 million of new revenue because his staff simply didn't respond to the emails and the phone calls that were generated. So tough lesson learned, right? And we turned off the campaign. He apologized. He just knew he had an internal problem. And you referenced that. What is your culture like? And maybe I can ask this tough question. How many of our practices listening today have somebody on staff that they know that they should have fired a long time ago because they're killing the culture at the practice and they're making it uncomfortable for everybody else? But rather than get rid of that person because it's tough to hire somebody and train them up, they're in a tough rut and they're making that rut comfortable as opposed to making the tough decision to get the right people in that are actually going to help that practice move forward in a very amazing way.
Well, let me add a couple of things to what you're saying, because here's what's important. What's important, and Chad alluded to this a little earlier, is if you have, general dentists all on X surgeons might be a little different. Oral surgeons might be a little
Sure.
different. Obviously, plastic surgeons might be a little different. But general dentists typically, if they spend over $5,000 a month on a paid ad, they're, it's an exceptional dentist. Usually, it's below the 5,000 range. But let's say you have a $3,000 ad budget, and it's not a large budget.
Right.
Focus on one thing. Focus on
Yes.
aligners. Focus on cosmetic dentistry. Focus on dental implants. Just target dental implants, let's say. And then what happens
Totally.
is all the other services come to you. If somebody needs an implant, most likely they need SRPs. Most likely they'll need they'll need a crown. Most likely
Yes.
they'll have a few silver fillings in their mouth. Most likely they'll need root canals. All of those other things are there. Don't target the other auxiliaries. If you have a small budget, target one service, the one that you love to do, and make it an elective service so it moves the needle for you. So that's number one. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I'm
So,
preaching, you're
yeah.
speaking my
So,
language.
but the second thing that you need to do is you need to sit and have clarity on what you want as a leader for your business. You need to have a vision and a clarity of what you want
Yes.
in your place of business. We many times throw our hands up and we're reactive to how our business responds because we don't have clarity, because we just didn't meditate for an hour regarding what we wanted. So get into a really quiet place and dig deep internal to see what is really going to make you happy. Do you really want that patient to call you 8 o'clock at night on a Friday night because they got something stuck between their teeth? Or the husband yell at you because the wife came in and she had no pain and now she's in pain and you caused it? I mean, the list goes on as far as the type of calls you can get at night. Or do you want to have a little bit more of a high quality practice, treat less patients, and be more low volume, high quality? But here's the thing. Have a vision and have clarity on what you want. So in this case, let's say dental implants. If that's what you want, you build a team around that idea that I want to build. In this case, let's say surgical practice. And you talk in your HR, in your working interview, you talk about what specifically you want from your office manager, from your salesperson. And we'll talk about that. There's a difference between being an office manager and a salesperson. And then on top of that, you have to have these weekly meetings with your top players. Just put yourself as a professional team. Do you think the coach doesn't hang out with his players? Do you think the general manager doesn't understand the talent that they have on the team? How do you think all that comes about? It comes about from communication. It comes about from research. It comes about from talent acquisition. And it also comes from always looking for talent. The complacency in most dental practices is the problem in your business, including you, doctor. You get comfortable. Dentistry is very redundant. You could sit and get really comfortable doing 200K a year and just say, screw it. I'm comfortable. Just living this life. Let's just do what we're doing. And you're going
golf on
off
Fridays and yep.
Yeah. So, and I get the work-life balance. And to be honest, I don't fully understand it very well because I think that's just an excuse to be lazy. But we can have that discussion another day. But here's the point. When you get to 90 days, when you're talking to Chad and you're frustrated about your $10,000 ad spend that didn't turn for you or didn't give you results, it's because you missed all these steps before you got to Chad 90 days or 100 days later. That's the problem. So it's not a Chad problem. It's that you skipped all of these steps. You went from step 1 to step 10 wanting results without paying attention to the steps in the middle. And because you don't pay attention to the steps in the middle, because you're clinically inclined, you think like a dentist. You don't think about step 2, 3, 4, 5, because guess what? I'm giving you $3,000 for you to think about that. But that's not how it works. And I think that's the rap that a lot of marketing firms get. Listen, if you're getting 150 leads and you're not converting, guess what? You got a bad team. You got a bad general manager. You got a bad coach. You got bad players. So, sit and evaluate that component of how you're getting
Totally.
people to play at the game, and then go to the marketing firm. The marketing firm is the ball, right? It's the basketball, it's the soccer ball, it's the football. It's letting you play the game, but it's your players that have to play the game. And if they don't know how to dribble with their right and left hand, they don't know how to kick a ball with their right and left foot, and they don't know how to catch a ball, or if they fumble all the time, I mean, you got a shitty team. So stop the blame game
Right.
and, take accountability. Now, with that said, we also understand, and Chad will agree, that there's marketing firms that suck also. But you know what? You got to go through finding a team. You got to go through finding a marketing firm. And that takes work. It takes time. It takes building assets. It takes vision. It takes clarity. It takes strategy. It takes turnover. It takes money. But what's your choice? Sit on the sidelines and watch everybody else do all these great things while you're sitting on the sidelines shaking and, playing scared. That's not a great option. And that's why Google is doing $300 billion a year, because people are in the game. And
That's right.
a lot of people in the dentistry are not playing the game right. I've wasted millions of dollars on Google ads because of what I just told you I didn't do. Because I was a bad general manager. I was a bad coach because I just wanted to do clinical dentistry. Because guess what? That's what I do. I'm a dentist, man. Like, I don't need to let Chad deal with that bullshit.
Why didn't you make it rain? I know. So
Yeah.
I love that you talked about really leading with vision, and it's so critical. We talk about that all the time. Be the leader, and so the people know where you're going, what direction are we heading, and they're getting on that ship with you. And that clarity and the communication has to be there. One of the other challenges I see, and just kind of piggybacking on what you mentioned, is a lack of consistency. And I'll hear from different offices that we call. They're like, oh yeah, well the doctor just went to such and such a conference, and this is the new hot topic that we have to follow for the next 30, 45 days. We know that this will pass, and so you don't really buy in because they feel like it's the flavor of the month. And so you have to ask yourself, okay, how many times have I introduced a new flavor of the month? Because I went to this conference, I hired this consultant, and listen, it's not because those things don't work. It's because you don't have good systems in place. You have not created a way to make it easy for the culture to expand and for these things to really grab hold within every single person, where they realize, no, we're all on board, we're all part of the solution, and recognizing that, hey, in today's world, the culture is critical, and your ability to communicate and set expectations and boundaries with every single person is so important. But if they don't have that vision of what you're really trying to accomplish, they're going to miss out, and then you're going to be frustrated. So make sure that solution has a consistent focus. If it's a stand-up meeting every single day for 10 minutes, do it. If it's once a week where you're on the same page, make that happen. Do your secret shopper calls, but have those different ways where you can track: are they following up on the leads? How are they answering the calls? Do we have a systematic approach to what we say on every single call? Do we have a systematic approach to what we say every time somebody walks through the door? Have we created an environment to where people love to be here? Because think about it, honestly, they're coming in and to sit there, lay there on their back, somebody trying to talk to them and ask questions, which they can't because they've got all kinds of stuff in their mouth. They might be in pain. It can be an uncomfortable experience. How does your office say, hey, when these leads come in from start to finish, what does that process look like? How do we get that warm blanket around them? Because I want to throw out another marketing term that I hope you will embrace. And it's an important one, and it's called lifetime value, sometimes referred to as LTV. You might also heard it called CLV, or customer lifetime value. But what it means is essentially the patient that comes into your practice is not the transaction of that day. It's not how much they spent on the root canal, the tooth cleaning, the crown, the bridge, whatever. The lifetime value, and this is from the American Academy of General Dentistry, is $24,000. that's an estimate over a 15-year period that you would see that patient. So that patient's worth $24,000 to you. So when you think about, wow, we just spent money to acquire them. We were spending money with Chad or whoever on our marketing. They do our website. They help us with our reputation management and our social media and our search engine optimization. They do all these things to make us better, and they provide these leads. What are we doing? And do we see each patient that comes into our practice as someone who's going to be with us forever? And then on top of that, let me just, this was going back to this study. We got this 450 people we surveyed, and we asked them what sources did they use for their research when looking at providers. And by demographic, it changes. 18 to 29-year-olds, they're using Google more, and they're using the map listings. They're looking at local information. Older groups, 30 to 44, personal referrals. 45 to 59, the top one, personal referrals. 60 and plus, personal referrals. Now we have data that also shows that once they have the personal referral or the professional referral, they're going to the practice website to validate what they've heard and they've seen. They want to, okay, my friend said that Dr. So-and-so is great. Let me go to the website and I want validation. Is the information accurate? Is it easy to make an appointment? Can I find the phone number, the address? Can I quickly learn about the doctor? Do they look like a friendly place that I want to be? Did it give me a feeling of like, huh, this looks like it matches what my friend's saying? Yeah, I'll go see them. Or is there a disconnect? So, but anyway, I am not trying to skirt the topic of marketing, but we all have to be working together. And this is part of why we want to have conversations is, hey, we're working on this. We're seeing this. What else are you seeing, doctor? Tell me about your practice. How they're responding to the leads. What's going on? You're not seeing enough volume. Let's talk about how we can increase the volume here. We've got some ideas. And yeah, we can.
Well,
we know you don't know these things. We want to help you. We're going to hold your hand. I get it. It's different, but trust us. Be part of the conversation.
Yeah, so the doctors don't see it, so they don't know what they're paying attention to. But I think you bring up a lot of great points, and it's important to understand that this is what you can do to work on your business. These are things you can do to work on your business. This podcast is a great thing for you to sit with your team. And we are giving you a bunch of ideas on what you need to do to work on your business. Create the vision, create the clarity, create the systems, hire properly, have accountability. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but that these words are always used, but they're used for a reason, because you're not doing it. Because if you have to do it, that means you have to change some habits. And those habits have to become more the thought process for you has to change more as a CEO as opposed to a dentist. And that's the thought process that's very painful. And that's why you don't engage with Chad, because you don't have the habits. You don't have the proper habits created and built. It takes 45 days for you to change habits, or it'll take a crisis for you to change habits. So, you take your pick. It's either you're going to hit a crisis for you to change your habits, or start getting disciplined and changing your habits today so you don't have to hit a crisis. And that's what's coming. If you don't, a crisis is coming. If you don't understand some of the basics of what we're talking about here, your business is going to be stagnant. If you're growing right now, at some point it will become stagnant, and you're going to need to understand this language. We do have a link in the post and in the chat here. You can schedule a time with Michael Antosi. He is the director of practice growth consulting for MyAdvice, and he'll sit with you and talk to you about 20, 30 minutes and give you some guidance on what you need to do as far as your direction. But here's my question to you, Chad, because I think it's fair to say that a general dentist has $3,000 a month to spend, and they call you and they have the vision, they have the clarity, they have the team. Remember, guys, you have to have these things before you call. They have the phone system, the lead management, the phone tree. The foundation of their business is set up for success. Now they call you and say, we got $3,000 on wanting to do aligners. What do you recommend, and how do you recommend that they split that money to get not to just get clicks, but to get leads, or I should say to get traffic to give you the opportunity to convert, what should they do with that $3,000?
I love it. So I would one of the things that we preach is what we call the pyramid of success, and it starts by still having your website as the foundation of that. People are going to find you on mobile, they're going to find you on desktop, they're going to look at that information. You need to have your local listings. This is your Google Business profile, your Google Maps, all lined up, and that's your name, your address, and your phone number have to align, and that's critical. You need to have a good reputation management solution. We have software for all of these things, by the way. And then you need to have a consistent posting on your social media. And we post for our clients 4 times a week. We of course want them to post as well, but we're trying to do the heavy lifting. So we have a social media scheduling software platform, so you can schedule posts, and we schedule them out 60 days in advance for you as well. So I would start with that, and that everything I just described, we're under $800 a month, so not very much. It's very, very affordable for that whole website and that marketing piece. For a little bit of marketing, a little bit of SEO on top of that, you're under $1,000 a month. It's a really, really solid place to be. The rest of the money I would spend on paid ads with Google, $2,000, $2,500 a month towards them, and that's where I would go with it. Where we've seen that Facebook ads are just not really working the way that they used to. They used to be really popular. We have not seen the ROI on those like we used to, but the Google ads are still consistent. And especially for something like aligners, that's exactly what I would do. And depending on where you live and how competitive your market is, it may look to say, hey, $2,000 a month, we're getting X number of leads, where you're converting this many, and we can look at numbers. Google gives us this data. It's phenomenal. They'll say, hey, you need to be on the low end here, the high end, you could actually be at 4,000 a month, and with 4,000 a month, we're going to double the number of leads coming in, and you're going to convert more than that. But the data also will tell us you can't spend more than that because there aren't enough eyeballs for that particular procedure. So I love this. You have to understand the data is there so that we can be extremely intelligent about what we're spending and to know the exact result of every single dollar that's being spent on those paid ads. So I'm a big fan of the paid ads for that reason, and getting the results. It's so easy to tie back dollar to result. It's not as ambiguous as some of the other pieces.
Well, let me add to that. And this is why it's important for you to target one service, because now you can hold the marketing firm accountable for that one service, because now you know what your cost per lead is. Let me explain. If you go to a marketing firm and say, I got $3,000 on ad spend, and they spend $3,000 and they get you a cost per lead at $100, you don't know if their cost per lead for a cleaning is $30, cost per lead for bleaching is $40, cost per lead for a white filling is $50. And then what you actually really want is the aligner in this example, and it's costing you $250 per lead. And so what happens is average is $100, but you don't know what's what. You don't know what your cost per lead is. Now, you can obviously dissect a report and say, why is it costing $250 per lead for my aligners where I'm getting white fillings for $40? Right. So that is something you have to understand. They're giving you a general cost per lead, and they're not specifically giving you what you want. So that's number one. And then the second part of that is you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to what that cost per lead is and be able to track that. And this is one thing that I think is important to understand. At this time, it's difficult to integrate with practice management software, not a marketing software that's running the leads. They give a value to the lead. That's different than what's actually being spent in your practice. So to get a true ROI, you need the marketing firm to be integrated to your practice management software. And that way you can understand exactly what the number is being spent. One thing you also brought up, and my gosh, the lifetime value, right? If you got a shitty inactive list, that also is you closing, your back door being open. And that back door being open is costing you thousands and thousands and maybe millions of dollars annually. So as much as we talk about spending $3,000 to get the front end or the front door to open and people come in, you got to have strategies to close that back door, because that $3,000, if you have a bad business culture, a situation where everybody's, not everybody, but a lot of people are leaving the business and become inactive, you're wasting marketing dollars on the front end. So you have to understand that once you get a person in, and if you can keep him in, as Chad stated or alluded to, 24,000 lifetime value is a huge number. The reality is the annual value of your patients, you have to look at that. But obviously, if you have a 15-year lifetime value of $24,000, imagine the value of that and the equity that you can build on that $100 lead. So there's so much to being a business owner in dentistry that unfortunately we were deceived in thinking that when I become a dentist, I'm just going to do dentistry. And
I
that's
hang a
far
shingle,
from it.
you build it and they will
Yeah.
come, right? It was
Well,
yeah.
and it was maybe a little bit more simple back in the 70s and 80s, but like you said, with internet and social media and all the noise that's out there, it's a different game today. And you got to
really
learn
is.
how to play the game. Chad, so you're basically saying, have established website, have some local listings, I think is important, have your review established, and MyAdvice can provide those services for and with a little SEO for less than about $1,000, and the rest of the money should go towards paid ads.
Right.
And there you go. There is your goal of building a $3,000 a month program by doing all the things that we talked about, and then picking up the ring. And then you got to be the best general manager and coach that you can be to support your team. Look, bring out the assets of your team and don't expose their liabilities. So if, for example, you, doctor, don't know how to sell dentistry, then don't keep beating yourself up because you don't know how to sell big cases. Bring a talented person in that can sell the case for you. And not necessarily high, but learn so you can grow, but don't continuously build yourself into a situation of failure, because then it'll just cause you to lose confidence, and it just goes the wrong way. The direction is the wrong way. So part of being a coach is identify your assets, identify your players and what assets they have. And complacency, I will tell you, it's your fault. If you got a complacent team, it's your fault. If you're complacent, it's your fault. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you're paying $120,000 to an office manager and you're making $850,000 a year, well, you suck, man. So, get on it. Get on it with your office manager and get the complacency out. That's having a very high payroll, and that directly hits your net income. So complacency can't be there, and it's not unhealthy to shake things up every once in a while. Bring a talented player in and show that I'm always looking for talent. So always be recruiting, always be on the lookout, always look for talent. Talent acquisition can help grow your business. So maybe you bring somebody in for growth, not somebody in just because you lost someone, but actually bring a player in that will help you win games and help you grow your business. And that's what a lot of top teams do. And then you just got to execute. And execution is the difference between championships and losses. So you have to understand all that. Chad, what's next for MyAdvice, man? What's the big project right now? What do you see on the forecast as far as what the next 2-3 years look like for dentists?
So a few different things. One is understanding technology and AI today. AI is a huge part of what's happening. If you're not spending a little bit of time every single day understanding how AI can impact your business and make you more efficient, you're missing out. I was just at the Greater New York Dental meeting, and I visited with a lot of different companies, and there's so many great software companies out there that at the end of the day, are going to help replace a person. You're going to have hiring struggles in your practice over the next several years. We have an employee shortage and it's not going to get any better. So you have to think about ways to be more effective and let software help you with that. A software platform like we offer on the marketing is going to make you more efficient. If you work with somebody like Weave or Addit or NextHealth or Dental Intelligence, these are great practice management groups that will layer on top of your practice management software. They're going to essentially help you, if they're used well, replace an entire person. So you've got to be thinking about automation, and we are all the time. We're always thinking about how do we get better. Because at the end of the day, AI isn't necessarily going to just replace somebody, but what they are going to do is they're going to help your employees become more efficient and be able to do 5 times, 10 times the amount of work that they would normally do because of these efficiencies and this ability to scale. And so, yes, are you going to be able to clean teeth faster? Not necessarily. Are you going to be able to do a dental implant quicker? Maybe, maybe not. But can you do all the other pieces within the practice more efficiently and better? Can your response time get better? Do you have systems set up so that email, phone calls, all these other administrative tasks can be done by fewer people in a better way and more efficiently? And part of what we're going to be working on is how do we make sure that those leads coming through can be tracked all the way through to know they've been followed up, how many times can we automate that process and track back data to know, yep, that patient started here, they ended up here, they're worth this much. And so be able to use that technology, and the technology is there for you already to go back and mine that data that exists. I mean, Solution Reach was one of the first ones to really launch that, going back, almost 18 years ago. And there's so many other companies that can do that now and help you make sure, okay, on the recare side, who are we missing? Who fell through the cracks that we should be finding? But you've got to get more efficient with your marketing. We don't have time today, but my goodness, Google is making a massive change, and I'll just kind of allude to this in a minute or two. What they call it's the Google Content Update. They actually launched it initially last year at the end of August, beginning of September. They did another update last December, and then September of this year, the middle of September, huge update to the way that Google processes websites and content on websites. And the biggest part of that is that if you have generic content on your website, it's going to hurt you. And it used to be that Google would just go page by page, and they might penalize this page and this page would be fine. You might have a blog article that's 300 words long that really offers no value on the web, and Google will now punish your entire website. So your website, you've got to know what pages are generating traffic, which ones are useless, and is my content creating what Google refers to, and write this phrase down, as information gain. Are you providing information gain to people looking? So that's something that differentiates you from the dentist down the street. I already talked about that an average patient is going to look at 2 to 5 different practices. Your information needs to talk about why you are different, how your approach is unique, and what really separates you from somebody else. It's what we call in the marketing terms your unique selling proposition, or your USP. You've got to really identify that, and it has to be understood very clearly on your website. It can't just be a page about dental veneers. Dental veneers cost this, and this is the standard way that we go about. Yes, it will hurt. No, your insurance will not cover most of it. It's like, no, this is how we do it. And you need to speak on your website as though you were talking to a patient in your office, and it's got to be content that's valuable that way. So if you feel like it's not, I'm just offering you a heads up that is a huge push today. And if you're not paying attention to it, you probably see your rankings decline on the organic searches. So you need to provide some value.
There's a lot of talk about being an associate or being an owner. And I'll tell you, if you want to be an owner, you got to get your face in your community. You got to get your name in your community, and you got to get in front of your community. And Google is smart, as Chad is explaining here, is that if you are afraid to get in front of your community on video, on voiceover, on radio, on any kind of content, Google is watching. and they'll spam your ass. So you got if you want organic followers, if you want organic support as you grow your business, you got to get in front of the camera and you got to have original content. And that means you got to put some time into it. You got to put some work into it. And it's again the idea of these are not what your habits are. You're not trained to do these things. These are the difficult things that you have to, the hurdles that you have to get over. This is the future. Otherwise, work as an associate and do all the shitty work that the dentist owner doesn't want to do, and pass it down to you. So you got a choice.
Or sell to a DSO, right? Yeah.
Well, listen, I'm a huge fan of the private. I'm a huge fan of the private sector. That's another discussion. So, we can get into that. But the bottom line is, if you want to control your own destiny, which America allows you to do that, you have a free market. You need to stop with, oh, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not this, I'm not that. Nobody cares. If your content is good, people will listen. They might not listen day one, they might not listen year two, but you just keep grinding. And look, the fact is, you're just in front of your community. It might be a 5-10 mile radius, 30-50 mile radius if you're rural. You're not going nationwide and worldwide. Nobody's going to come see you from Egypt. And nobody's going to come from New York to see you in San Francisco. If you're just doing general dentistry and you're just, have a typical dental practice. So relax a little bit. Relax. It's not a bad thing. It plays in your favor to do that. So here's one difference. I just explained. If you want to be a business owner, you got to get in front of the camera. You got to get in front of people in your community. That's it. If you want to play the shy game, go be an associate, hide in the corner. So that's important, because spam is important. Again, your marketing dollars has value if you have original, custom content. And that's how you can play the game. Your cost per lead will drop and your reputation will grow. And your culture will grow. Put yourself as a consumer in your business and, really take a hard look at what you're doing. Would you buy from you? And if you're questioning if you would buy from you, then there's your starting point. Boy, there's so much to talk, man. We're coming on top of the hour. Chad, good stuff, man. I mean, there's so many things we can dive into, and I'm sure we'll have you on again as a guest. But anything that you want to add to the dentist that is listening to you today, and they're looking for some guidance and some direction from a vice president of strategy on how to grow a business. Any closing thoughts?
Absolutely. Thank you. First, thank you for allowing me to be here today and to share some thoughts with your audience. I understand, again, 25 years of doing this, that the marketing side can feel overwhelming. It can feel confusing. There's a lot of terminology that's difficult or foreign. One of the things that we try to stress with our group is, with every one of our coaches, is how do we help bring it down where it makes sense to you? We're here to help hold your hand. We know it can be challenging for you. It doesn't have to be. Let us be part of your solution. We've been doing this for a long time. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable with everything that's out there. If you've got questions and you feel like, hey, I've heard this, heard that, talk to Michael. Just click on the link, set up a quick phone call. If you're doing a great job and you've got a great solution, he's going to tell you that. If you're worried, thinking, am I kind of getting taken by my group right now? He'll tell you what's good, and this is kind of where they're taking advantage of you, and here's some areas for improvement. So it's, take advantage of this opportunity to talk to us. There's no obligation. We're not going to spam you to death, but we're here to help you. And so if you want the help, let us help you.
Well, you said it right at the beginning. You said engage. So listen, here's your opportunity to engage. Take 30 minutes out of your so-called busy day and engage and learn and pivot and become dynamic, become innovative. So Chad, man, thank you so much for your time today. And I'm sure we're going to, stay in touch and stay connected. We are on Love Bites Dental. We have a private group, and Chad and his team post on there regularly. So you can always follow, just come and join if you're a dentist. You can come join Love Bites Dental on Facebook, and they post at least once every couple of weeks. And there's great content for you to follow and for that page in general. So, Chad, I appreciate your time, man. Stay warm. I know
Thank you.
it's winter in Utah.
Yes, it
What's
is.
Lehigh? Is tell me, it's Silicon Valley and San Fran. What's Lehigh?
Silicon. We're the
What
Silicon Slopes.
slope? Is it slopes?
Slopes.
Is that what it is? All
Yeah.
right, man. Be careful on the
Silicon
slopes.
Slopes.
Be careful on the
Give-
slopes.
Come ski with me. You're always welcome. Come join me. So
Yeah, you know, I lived in Utah. You know this. I lived in Utah for 8 years, and I would ski snowbird, and I think it was Solitude
Alta?
or Out
Solitude's awesome.
Solitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a few years, but yeah, I love skiing. But yeah, man, I'll head up. We'll connect. I'm sure pretty soon. So,
I hope so. All right.
all right, buddy.
Thank you
Thanks
so
so much.
much. All
All
right.
right.
Talk
Have a
to you
great
soon.
day. You got it. That was awesome. Listen to this podcast and take action. Knowledge is not power. It's the implementation of knowledge that's power. So now you have a choice. You can go back to doing whatever you're doing and continue to be the same person, or you can get a little uncomfortable and get yourself to change your habits so you can move in the positive direction. I want to thank Chad Erickson from MyAdvice, the VP of Strategy, Chad Erickson. And we got some amazing guests coming up in 2024. I got some great things happening. Follow me on the social channels, Dr. Shahin Safarian. We do have a Shahin's Corner podcast that we've just put up on YouTube, and we're going to put on the other social channels as well. I'm really excited about that. This, I think, was my 37th podcast I've done with Shahin's Corner over the past couple of years. And there's just tremendous value. Some people are doing some amazing things. And you want to stay ahead of that game, follow us. And I appreciate your time. I'm Dr. Shahin Safarian. Until next time.